The flowers came to Hollow Vale on a night Clara Finch couldn't sleep. She'd been up late, tinkering with an old ham radio in her cluttered shed, the kind of project that kept her hands busy and her mind off the quiet. At 72, retired from a career wiring circuits for the military, she'd settled in the valley to escape noise, cities, people, memories. But that night, a faint hum crept through her window, not from the radio but from outside. She stepped onto her porch, the air cool and heavy with the scent of earth, and saw them, wildflowers blooming across the hillside in perfect, spiraling rows, their petals glowing faintly under the moon. They hadn't been there at dusk. Clara fetched her binoculars, squinting through the dark. The flowers weren't random, their patterns mimicked waveforms, tight coils, and jagged peaks like the static she'd traced on oscilloscopes decades ago. She'd seen nature do strange things, fractals in leaves, hexagons in hives, but this felt deliberate. By morning, the blooms had spread, curling around her fence, their petals trembling with a rhythm she couldn't hear but could feel in her bones. She dragged her radio to the porch, tweaking dials until a crackle broke through, not music or chatter, but a hiss that pulsed in time with the flowers. It took 3 days to build the receiver. Clara scavenged parts from her shed, coaxial cables, a dented antenna, a speaker she'd salvaged from an old truck, and rigged it to amplify the signal. The first sound was static, sharp and grating, but beneath it came words: target acquired, Northwest Ridge, fire at will. Her breath caught. She knew that voice, gruff, clipped, her brother Tom's, dead since the war ended in 73. She twisted the dial, and another came through. Clara, get the kids out. Her mother, shrill with panic, gone 40 years. The broadcasts looped, fragments of a conflict she'd lived through as a child, hiding in a basement while bombs shook the county. But these weren't memories, they were live, urgent, as if the war still raged somewhere. She didn't sleep that night. The flowers thickened, spilling over her yard, their stems glassy and tough, petals flickering like tiny screens. Clara dug into the soil with a trowel, unearthing a speck of black dust that shimmered under her flashlight. She'd seen it before, meteorite residue, rare and metallic, from a rock that fell in the valley back in 52, before she was born. The old-timers called it a dud, said it sank into the dirt and did nothing. But this dust was alive, threading through the roots, feeding the blooms. She tested it with a Geiger counter, low radiation, but a faint electromagnetic pulse synced with the radio's hiss. By the 5th day, the voices grew personal. "Clara, why didn't you come?" her father asked, his tone soft and broken, the way he'd sounded before the cancer took him. "We're waiting," her sister Ellen whispered, a girl who'd drowned at 12 in the creek. Clara's hands shook as she scribbled the words, her shed now a mess of notebooks and wires. She wasn't crazy, the signals were real, bleeding through time, carried by the flowers. She built a transmitter, a rusty MIC hooked to the radio, and spoke into it. "Tom, it's Clara. Where are you?" The static spiked, then went silent. For a moment, she thought she'd broken it. Then the flowers answered. A whisper, faint but clear, "Clara," rustled through the petals, not from the speaker but the air itself. She stumbled back, heart pounding. That night, sprouts pushed through her floorboards, thin and glassy, curling toward her chair. She hacked them down with a shovel, but they regrew by morning, thicker, their petals pulsing faster. The radio crackled again, signal received. Coordinates locked. Not Tom's voice, something colder, mechanical, layered with a hum that made her teeth ache. Clara tore through her old engineering manuals, cross-referencing meteorite studies. She found a footnote: 52's fall wasn't a dud, it carried trace elements unknown to Earth, dismissed as contamination. She rigged a spectrometer from spare parts, scanning the dust. It wasn't just metal, it emitted a frequency, a beacon, weak until now. The flowers weren't channeling the past, they were amplifying a signal, and her response had turned it on. She dug deeper into the yard, unearthing a shard of the meteorite, no bigger than a fist, its surface etched with hairline grooves that pulsed when she touched it. The voices shifted. "Clara, stay with us," Ellen pleaded, but the mechanical hum undercut it. "Transmission complete. Arrival imminent." The flowers spread beyond the valley, choking the creek, climbing trees, their patterns tightening into a grid. Clara's house became a jungle, vines snaked up walls, blooms pressed against windows, whispering her name in chorus. She smashed the transmitter, but the signal didn't stop. The radio spat static, then a new voice, "We see you." Not human, too smooth, too vast, like a machine mimicking life. Panic set in. She grabbed her tools, a crowbar, a gas can, matches, and ran to the hillside where the first blooms appeared. The ground thrummed beneath her boots, a vibration she felt in her chest. She poured gas over the flowers, struck a match, and watched them burn. The flames hissed, black smoke curling skyward, but the whispers didn't fade, they screamed, a cacophony of her family's voices begging her to stop. She staggered back, tears streaking her face, as the fire spread. The meteorite shard, half buried, glowed red, then cracked, releasing a pulse that knocked her flat. When she woke, the valley was ash, the flowers gone. Her radio lay silent, its wires melted. She thought she'd won, until she saw the sky. A shadow loomed, vast and angular, not a cloud but a shape, descending slowly through the haze. The trap wasn't the garden, it was her voice, her reply, a beacon to something that had waited decades to find her. She stumbled to her shed, hands trembling, and flipped on an old CB radio, broadcasting to anyone who'd listen, "Don't answer. Don't speak." Static answered, then a whisper, "Too late." The shadow grew closer, its edges glinting like glass, and Clara realized the flowers hadn't been the signal, they'd been the bait. She'd given it what it needed, a location, a voice, a world. The valley trembled as the thing touched down, and in its hum, she heard her name one last time, not from the past, but from something that knew her now.